Hey, folks, Erick Stakelbeck here. Welcome to the Watchman Newscast live stream. And look, we've been discussing this for weeks now, really for months. The Iranian Ring of Fire is mostly smashed. Look, Hamas in its death throes in Gaza, Hezbollah licking its wounds, a shell of what it was. Assad gone in Syria. More on Syria, the new overlords in Syria in a minute, by the way. The Houthis in Yemen about to get a major smackdown as well. The militias in Iraq, awful quiet the past several months. Then Iran itself, the head of the snake, has been weakened severely. Its nuclear program destroyed, its ballistic missile stockpile depleted, its air defense is destroyed, top generals, top scientists taken out by Israel. The list goes on. I say all that to say Iran is not what it was. And the Iranian Ring of Fire is not what it was. It's as simple as that. That's why, as we reported here on the live stream the other day, we have Iran conducting naval drills in the Caspian Sea these past 3 days with Russia. With its proxy strategy out the window now, pretty much, Iran is going to draw closer and cleave more closely to nation states, in particular, nuclear-armed nation states. We're talking China, Russia, and North Korea. I call it the Gathering Storm Coalition. I say all that to say, Iran is now not, I repeat, not the top dog in the radical Islamic world. Although it still wants to be, and look, they're down, but they're not out. They're still a major threat. They're going to try to restart the nuclear program. They're going to try to revamp the ballistic missile stockpiles, no doubt, and the missile launchers as well. But Israel and the United States are more than ready for that. They've made very clear, including during the meetings between Prime Minister Netanyahu and Donald Trump 2 weeks ago in D.C. Iran, again, is in dire straits, the Iranian regime. The people could rise up at any moment, and God willing, they do, the Iranian people who are the main victims of this regime. But there's a bit of a vacuum now in the radical jihadist world. Look, the Iranian Ring of Fire was the tip of the spear in the jihad against Israel for many years, starting with the regime itself, then, of course, Hezbollah, Hamas, as we mentioned, the Houthis, etc., and various forces they fund in Judea and Samaria as well. But now they're on their back foot. They're in big trouble. There's a vacuum, folks, is what I'm saying right now. While Iran's still very dangerous and not utterly defeated yet, far from it, it's not what it was prior to the 12-day war. The Iranian regime and Iran's capabilities are not what they were prior to October 7th. Really, on that day, when Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar chose to invade, he signed his own death warrant, Hamas's, Hezbollah's, and ultimately, I believe, the Iranian regime's death warrants as well. Iran backed that invasion on October 7th, but it wasn't ready. That wasn't the time. Sinwar acted. He got ahead of the Iranian regime. The plan was a coordinated attack from all sides, a simultaneous invasion of Israel from all sides. Hamas went too early, and so goes history. And now we have one nation, I believe, you see the thumbnail and the title for today's live stream, one nation in particular, I believe, that sees an opening here. It sees a vacuum to assert its dominance in the Islamic world. Iran is down. Iran's proxies are down. Saudi Arabia, very economically, obviously, influential, vast oil reserves. Same with the UAE, the Arab Gulf states, but they don't have the military might. Egypt, kind of schizophrenic in some ways, has a lot of military might, but fragile society. I mean, 2 revolutions in the span of 3 years, not too long ago during the so-called Arab Spring, which really devolved into an Islamist winter. So Egypt, look, the most populous Arab nation for sure, always a player. And then you have Jordan, which, look, the Jordanian government always kind of teetering on the brink of collapse, it seems, or being overthrown. We're always hearing every few years, oh my gosh, Jordan's in trouble. So in the Islamic world, in the most pivotal region for Islam, look, Indonesia in Southeast Asia is the world's most populous Muslim nation, but the cradle of Islam is certainly the Middle East and Asia in general, Central Asia, West Asia, I guess you would call Israel and Turkey and all the rest. So Turkey sees an opportunity there. And look, they're the bridge between Europe and Asia. Number one, look on the map geographically. Number two, they're a NATO member nation. They boast the second largest military in NATO. Those are two major factors right there. Number three, Turkey has a very ambitious leader in Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Number four, he is viciously anti-Israel and anti-Semitic. And geographically, they're not far from Israel, Turkey, and they've got Syria. They can go right through Syria, and they'll be on Israel's doorstep. So there are many factors here. And Erdogan has motivations and grand ambitions to revive the Islamic Caliphate. You might say, what's that? What? The Caliphate was a union of all Islamic nations, united, speaking with one voice, united under one ruler, called the Caliph. I believe Erdogan fancies himself as a modern day Caliph. And remember, the glory days of the Caliphate took place, or the most recent glory days, took place under the rule of the Turkish Ottoman Empire. It was a Turkish caliphate, an Ottoman caliphate, based out of Turkey until it disbanded in 1924. The caliphate's been gone for over 100 years now. Erdogan's dream is to bring it back and to be the caliph. I see that's just straightforward way to put it. And he's had chances before in his view. Look, he's been in power for 23 years, and he now has essentially absolute power in Turkey. He's purged his enemies in the police, the intelligence services, the military. He is a Muslim Brotherhood acolyte through and through. You could basically call his Justice and Development Party in Turkey. It's essentially the Turkish branch of the Muslim Brotherhood. And you know that ideology. The Brotherhood's the granddaddy of them all when it comes to Islamic terror. By the way, Senator Ted Cruz from Texas just introduced legislation on Capitol Hill here in the United States, where I'm sitting, to designate the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization. About time. They've already been designated in the UAE, in Egypt, even in Russia, I believe the Brotherhood may very well be designated a terror organization. So it's high time that happened in the United States as well. But Erdogan's a Brotherhood guy through and through. And he's got ambitions. The Caliph, the Caliphate, yes, but Jerusalem. He has talked openly and often about Jerusalem. And I met with a senior Israeli official. I've talked about this over the past week or so. During that D.C. visit of Bibi, when he met with Trump, there were some very important heavy hitters in the Israeli government close to Bibi who were also in D.C. at that time. And I met with a senior Israeli official. He gave me and other media members a briefing. And he mentioned that. He mentioned how troubling it is that Erdogan is fixated on Jerusalem. I believe it lines up prophetically and with Bible prophecy for sure. We'll talk about that as well. But look, to my mind, Erdogan had a few, in his view, opportunities. Took power 2002. Arab Spring launches late 2010, early 2011, and Erdogan got very excited. Why? Well, I mentioned he's a Muslim Brotherhood guy. The Muslim Brotherhood took power in Egypt for a short time. The Brotherhood took power in Tunisia. The Brotherhood was ascendant. Even in Jordan, they were threatening. The Brotherhood was ascendant across the region. And look, Barack Obama was in power here in the United States. He was the president. He was a brother. I'd say the Brotherhood offshoots like CARE and ISNA. You might say, huh? CARE, Council on American Islamic Relations. ISNA, Islamic Society of North America. Kind of North American Brotherhood fans, you could say. They were very cozy with the Obama White House. So Erdogan scanned the Middle East, number one. The Brotherhood was on the rise. Number two, in the West, the Brotherhood had infiltrated and were gaining influence in governments, academia, etc. And Erdogan was feeling pretty good about himself. And he said, hey, this could be a modern day caliphate shaping up. My guys, the Muslim Brotherhood, are on the rise. So he saw, he could almost feel it, a new caliphate forming. And then it all fell apart. Mohammed Morsi, the Muslim Brotherhood president in Egypt, was overthrown. President Sisi has been in charge now for 12 years, and he decimated the Brotherhood. He came to power and purged the Brotherhood from Egyptian society. They're still there. They're like jihadi vampires. Every few years, they'll raise their heads, believe me. But the Brotherhood was weakened in Egypt. They eventually got booted out in Tunisia. So Erdogan was very frustrated by that. But okay. Arab Spring devolves again into chaos. The Brotherhood was on the rise and they dipped again. Fast forward to 2014 or so, ISIS. Now, we knew the Brotherhood's goal was to establish a caliphate, and they were going to do it politically. The Muslim Brotherhood said, hey, we'll do it through elections, not through jihad. The final stage is jihad. When we get enough power, we overthrow society. But we're going to try and burrow our way in through elections, through the media, academia, et cetera. It's a very stealthy kind of strategy. Many similarities to the left and how the hard left operates. No wonder we have that red-green alliance between the left and radical Islamists. Unholy and unlikely alliance, but an alliance nonetheless. Many tactical similarities, I'd say, on how the Muslim Brotherhood operates and the left operates here in the West in particular. But ISIS rises, and Erdogan says, a new opportunity. And ISIS actually established a mini caliphate, 58,000 square miles of territory in the heart of the Middle East, encompassing a big chunk of Syria and Iraq that was roughly the size of Great Britain. There's a lot of territory that ISIS ruled over with an iron fist, an evil fist. And Erdogan helped facilitate that. He enabled, look, Syria, which was the main power base, their capital was in Raqqa, Syria, ISIS, borders Turkey, of course. Erdogan opened that border, that Syria-Turkey border. He enabled foreign fighters to flood into Syria through Turkey, including thousands of Europeans, even Americans. Radical Islamists from the West traveled to Syria to join up with ISIS. And they used Turkey as a transit point. They would fly into Turkey, drive right over the border. Erdogan said, go ahead. So Erdogan strengthened the rise of ISIS, no doubt. I believe his thought was, okay, let the jihadis establish the physical caliphate. And then I'll kind of, through jihad, then I'll kind of swoop in and I'll rule over it. And then that all went to pot when President Trump kept his word and destroyed ISIS during his first term. So Erdogan had two opportunities there, it seemed, during the Arab Spring, during the rise of ISIS, where he could almost taste the caliphate. Then it collapsed. His biggest strategic competitor, although they would work closely together on many matters, was the Iranian regime and that Iranian Ring of Fire. He played both sides of the fence, working with Iran on a lot, including opposition to Israel, of course, but on a separate plane on things where Erdogan said, okay, Iran, we want good relations with you, but we ultimately want to be the top dog. And you want to be the top dog too. Iran, the Shia powerhouse, Turkey, the Sunni powerhouse. Well, now that Shia powerhouse is on its heels and hurting badly. So for the third time in the past, let's say 15 years, Erdogan sees an opportunity. And he's been flexing his muscle around the region, Turkish muscle. We're talking Azerbaijan. We're talking Armenia over the past few years. We're talking Libya, in Syria, in Iraq. Always targeting the Kurds. We know that. But the collapse of Assad in Syria back in December 2024 was big for Erdogan. It opened up a door. And now he has become the most vociferous backer of Ahmed al-Shara, the new Syrian president, who, in case you haven't noticed, is a former al-Qaeda terrorist, now leading Syria. And in case you haven't noticed, his forces just carried out a massacre of the Druze, a religious minority in Syria. And they've also targeted Christians, Alawites, other non-jihadi religious minorities in Syria. And Erdogan's their biggest backer. So once again, he sniffs opportunity. And there's more to it I want to unpack. What does it mean prophetically? That's number one. What does the Bible say about all this? Does Turkey have a role in Bible prophecy? Number two, events of just the past 3 days or so, past 4 days, regarding Turkey vis-a-vis Israel, Turkey perhaps getting some major help in the terms of fighter jets, and more Turkish overseas adventures, including in Cyprus, the latest on that. And look, Erdogan's also talked about ballistic missiles, building his ballistic. He's even hinted about a nuclear program. So again, As one radical empire is on the decline, another one rises. It's always how it is, it seems, in the Middle East. And Israel will have a new, and look, I'm not the only one saying this. I don't want to see this, obviously, but you can kind of see which way the winds are blowing. And prophetically, especially, Erdogan is going to be, as long as he's in office, I believe he's 72 or 73 years old, he will be a steadfast foe of Israel, no doubt. His ideology demands it. He's Muslim Brotherhood through and through. He hates Israel. I use that word. I don't use that word lightly. He despises the Jewish state. He's made that clear for the past 15 years or so in his public statements, his actions. He has been and will continue to be a thorn in Israel's side. And I think that thorn's going to grow because, again, I think he sees an opportunity right now with Iran weakened. So we're going to break that down. A lot to break down there. It's fascinating stuff. It's troubling stuff, but we think you'd rather know than not know what's happening. At the end of the day, God sits on the throne, so you don't have to be troubled or fearful. Be encouraged. God's in control. And that's a message we always try to transmit here on the live stream every day. If you like what you're hearing, and we're doing a bit of a deep dive today on Turkey. If you like what you're hearing, be sure to subscribe, click the notification bell so you get alerts every time a new video is posted. We're coming to you most weekdays, sometimes on the weekends as well, depending on the news cycle. And when you're covering chiefly the Middle East and Israel, but we go all around China, Russia, geopolitical here in America, the West, Europe, but special focus, of course, on Israel and the Middle East. And when that's your special focus, you're going to be rather busy. And you'll have no shortage of things to talk about. So be sure to subscribe so you never miss a video. And hey, you can follow us on X, formerly known as Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, across social media. Also check out our nightly broadcast TV show. It's called Stakelbeck Tonight, every weeknight, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, with a re-air at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time on TBN. It's the world's largest Christian television network. And if you missed the show, you can check out clips from the Stakelbeck Tonight show here on YouTube. Yeah, we have a second YouTube channel. I know, we're crazy. We're busy enough. We've got a second YouTube channel at Stakelbeck Tonight with clips from our nightly show. Okay, those are your marching orders, your programming orders. But listen, as Israel, we're talking about enemies rising, enemies falling. The bottom line is there always seems to be some massive enemy that comes against Israel and the Jewish people. And we've seen this really throughout history. I mean, Pharaoh, Haman from the mighty Persian Empire, the Philistines, the Assyrians, the Babylonians, the Romans, the Greeks, the Ottomans, who we're talking about, the czars, the Nazis, of course. Now today, Iran, Hamas. There's always some foe, some fierce demonic foe, evil foe that tries to stamp out Israel and the Jewish people. Here's the great news. I've read to the back of the book. That ain't going to happen. That's number one. Number two, Israel has some great friends in the world today, chief among them Bible-believing Christians like myself. And we want to bless Israel. We want to fulfill the biblical mandate laid out in Genesis 12:3 to bless the nation of Israel. It's a clear-cut mandate from God Almighty. One way we can do that is to invest in Israel and invest in Israel's economy and Israel's businesses. That's where our partner for today comes in, a great organization called Wise Money Israel. Now, you can diversify your investments. We have many business-minded people here who watch the channel. You can diversify your investments and support Israel. That's an amazing thing. Wise Money Israel manages Israeli stock and bond accounts for people from over 30 nations, and they're believers. These are followers of Jesus, Yeshua, who are doing the investing in Israel for you. It doesn't get much better than that. By investing in Israel, you can not only bless Israel, but you can also make a profit. Imagine that. Very nice. At a time when Israel's economy really needs a boost. Israel's facing war on 7 fronts. The economy's been hurt, but you can help boost it. As Israel battles to hold on to the land, you can back successful Israeli companies that power the Israeli economy and sustain the Jewish people. Wise Money Israel's professionals wisely invest your funds in the local Israeli markets. Hey, Israel's economy is one of the most resilient and innovative in the world, despite a 7-front war. Only God, because God's hand is on the land. wisemoneyisrael.com, wisemoneyisrael.com/Erick. That's ERICK, wisemoneyisrael.com/Erick for a free consultation. It's free. Why not? Try it out. You won't be disappointed. This is a great group. Help restore Israel to the blessing God promised her. That's one of the taglines for Wise Money Israel. You can align your finances with your faith, diversify your investments, and partner with Israeli believers. Again, these are Israeli followers of Jesus who share your values. wisemoneyisrael.com. And look, economically, yes, Israel, 7-front war, but Israel's on the upswing. Ask anyone who's involved in investments. Israel is a scientific, technological powerhouse, economic powerhouse, punching far above its weight. That's only going to increase, I believe, for two reasons. Number one, the Trump effect. The allies of America and Donald Trump's America are going to reap the benefits of his very wise economic decisions. Yesterday, for instance, Indonesia, Japan, Philippines. Trump signed 3 massive trade deals with them. I believe there's some very good deals coming along economically between Israel and the United States as well that will make Israel an even greater place for your investments. And number 2, talking deals, the Abraham Accords. They're about to expand, ladies and gentlemen, those peace treaties between Israel and its Arab neighbors. And when that happens, more economic blessings, investment opportunities will come to the forefront in Israel. So all that to say, great opportunity, great time to invest in God's land. It's wisemoneyisrael.com/Erick. Check it out. Really, really proud to partner with Wise Money Israel. And again, they're literally doing God's work. These are believers. Their hearts are in the right place for sure. And they're very good at what they do. Very smart guys. Check them out. Okay. Recep Erdogan would say that he's a very smart guy and he's very good at what he does, which seems to be opposing Israel at every turn. And he certainly, as I said earlier, he fancies himself as a modern-day caliph. He sees himself as the galvanizing figure, the leader of the Islamic world. That's what he's wishing for. Some moves he's made in the past few days. I've talked about how he covets Jerusalem. In the past few days, he's absolutely blasted Israel. Said that Israel is weak and desperate. This was just a few days ago. For its conduct in Gaza, weak. And I don't know, to me, Israel looks pretty strong right now. After its heavy blows against Iran and its axis, Israel, to me, looks like the lone regional superpower. And really, as we just laid out, a global power economically as well. But Erdogan slamming Israel. I mean, he again called Israel a terrorist state. This just a few days ago. Calls Israel a terrorist state. He's called Israel modern-day Nazis. He's called Netanyahu a terrorist. He's talked about conquering Jerusalem. He's talked about attacking Israel. He's accused Israel of planning to attack Turkey. It all sounds quite mad, but this is the leader, again, of a nation that boasts the second largest military in NATO. This is a big problem. And under Erdogan's radical rule, I've said that NATO is more like, or Turkey is more like, rather than NATO, more like NATO in name only. Big problem. It's like there's a mole or a plant inside of NATO, inside the NATO alliance, a guy who has certainly pivoted east. We're talking Russia, China, Iran, Hamas. He's a huge Hamas supporter, Erdogan. He's even harbored Hamas members and leaders on Turkish soil. So his shift has been eastward against the West ideologically, certainly against Israel. And yet he still has a foothold in the West, not only geographically, but in NATO. That's a problem. So he flexes all sorts of muscles that Iran does not have. In that, look, if one NATO member goes to war, you probably know the requirements of the NATO treaty. If one NATO member goes to war, all NATO members are required to go to war. That's a tricky one. And that's proven to be over the years. People have discussed this a lot since Vladimir Putin obviously invaded Ukraine. Look, Poland is a member of NATO, for instance. What if Putin rolled tanks into Poland? Then the rest of the NATO alliance is obligated to defend Poland, a NATO member. So this has brought up a lot of conversation. I said it's a tricky one. It's brought up a lot of tricky conversations here in the West over the past few years in particular. So when Erdogan does very bad things, which he's done, what does NATO do? Well, folks, I got to tell you, it's kind of been radio silence and crickets chirping. When NATO has made, or when Erdogan's made these outrageous statements about Israel and others, and menaced his own people. We could go on. He's a dictator. Surprise, the man is a dictator. And NATO's been largely quiet about it, which is really disappointing. But one thing Erdogan did was the Israel bashing this week when we talk about him becoming Israel's next great enemy. Another thing, Cyprus, he just yesterday celebrated, if you can use that word, the 51st anniversary of him basically conquering the northern half of the island of Cyprus, and he's there to stay. That was another big one. And also fighter jets. Now, he's trying to arm himself at the same time that this new Syrian government, the Jihadis, who have been massacring religious minorities over the past few months and certainly the past few days, they want Turkey. I'll talk about the fighter jets in a minute, but they want Turkey to swoop in and train their armed forces. This new government in Syria. They want Turkish training, and this is going to alarm Israel to the max. To have a Turkish footprint in Syria, no. Because the main reason Israel carried out massive airstrikes in Syria in December when Assad fell, and really throughout the past few months at times, was to make sure that Turkey couldn't get its hands on any of that weaponry and just establish a foothold, including military bases in Syria, which Turkey planned to do. But Israel thwarted that by destroying those bases and bombing them. Very wise preemptive move, very important. But now Syria is asking for Turkish help. And under the, I guess, pretext, al-Shara is saying, man, I can't control these forces that are killing the Druze, etc. I got to get them under control. Turkey, can you help us rein them in? They're his own forces, al-Shara, but he says, oh, it's not me. I didn't tell them to go slaughter everyone. Yeah, right. Here we go from Reuters, Reuters, as I call them, disparagingly. But at any rate, Turkey will directly intervene to stop any attempt to break up Syria, to fragment Syria, and will prevent any attempts by militants, terrorists, to obtain autonomy after these clashes the past few days in southern Syria. Now, this is seen as a warning to Israel. They're accusing Israel of trying to fragment, to break up Syria. And Turkey saying, if you dare do that, Zionists, we will intervene. Is that Turkish boots on the ground? I presume so. That's a big deal. And Israel at all costs, Israel basically doesn't want to, okay, we got rid of the Iranian menace in Syria, and now we're just going to have the Turkish menace move right in and replace the Iranians? No, we're not going to have that. I think it's a collision course. And we're hearing now about the Europeans perhaps selling fighter jets to Turkey. Pulling this up now. Here we go. Turkey's Eurofighter jet deal is a headache for Israel, an Israeli official told the Jerusalem Post. They have an agreement with Germany for the purchase of 40 Eurofighter Typhoon fighter jets. And it's a headache, and it's a potential long-term threat to Israel. The Israeli official said this isn't a game-changing threat, but the Typhoon is capable. It's a capable and superior aircraft. It's a good aircraft, but not as good as Israel's, he says. But it's a worrying signal that Turkey is accelerating its arms buildup. That's a big takeaway. Okay, what does this all mean as we wrap it all together with a nice bow? What does it all mean going forward? Prophetically, right? I mean, we could talk about it in the geopolitical sense, which I just did for several minutes. Prophetically, a few things, and then I'll go. Number one, I've called them the October 7th wars. Israel's wars with Hamas, Hezbollah. The Houthis, not a full-blown war, but it's a serious engagement there. The collapse of Assad, and of course, Israel's 12-day war with Iran, destroying the nuclear facilities. These are prophetic events in that they're birth pangs, I think, that are laying the groundwork for larger prophetic events to come. Turkey, I believe, will play a role in those larger prophetic events. In particular, the book of Ezekiel talks about the war of Gog and Magog. Weird name, I know. But the book of Ezekiel, chapters 38 and 39, lays this out very clearly. It uses ancient biblical names. For instance, it calls Iran Persia. It calls Turkey Gomer, Beth Togarmah. Weird names, I know. But these were the names used when Ezekiel wrote this under the inspiration of the Holy Spirit 2,500 years ago. So I believe Turkey will be part of what Ezekiel calls this latter days invasion force that comes against Israel. Will Erdogan be the man at the helm? And by the way, they don't get very far. Spoiler alert, doesn't go very well for this invasion force. But is Erdogan the man who will be involved in that, who will spearhead that? Not sure. Again, he's in his 70s now. Who knows? People have said, hey, Russia's going to be involved in it as well. Will Putin be at the helm? Iran's going to be involved. Persia is named. Will Khamenei be at the helm? We don't know. But unless I'm sadly mistaken, the events of Ezekiel 38 and 39 have not happened yet. And that's yet to come. So I think Turkey, I say all that to say, Turkey's turn and Erdogan's turn is not surprising to anyone who knows Bible prophecy. And his getting closer to Iran and Russia is in either. Also no surprise if you look at Ezekiel 38 and 39. So fasten your seatbelts because we live in Bible times, prophetic times, a lot happening. Glad to do this deep dive with you today on Turkey. Hope you understand that nation. And I love the Turkish people. That's the thing. And Turkey had a great relationship with Israel before Erdogan, great relationship with the United States. But I think President Trump here needs to use that leverage that he uses so well. He's going to start to need to use it on Erdogan. Erdogan is not our friend. And I think that will be revealed more and more as the days go on during the Trump presidency. And President Trump will see that clearly, I believe. But great being with you. Hang in there. Stay in prayer. Keep it all in prayer. Until next time, God bless you. And remember, never hold your peace.
Hey everyone, thanks for checking out the Watchman Newscast. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you never miss an upload, and tap the bell icon so you're notified every time a new video is posted. And don't forget to share your thoughts, insights, and comments below. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow.